Welcome to the deep dive. We're about to take a deep plunge into today's top headlines from India. Our goal, turning a mountain of information into a concise, actionable understanding. Think of it as your express lane to being truly well-informed.
Exactly. And it's more than just reading the news. Our mission today is really to unpack these headlines. We're looking for the underlying patterns, the deeper implications, and those surprising nuggets of knowledge that often get lost in the daily churn. We're going to help you understand not just what is happening, but crucially why it matters and maybe what ripple effects it could have.
Precisely. We have an incredibly rich stack of sources in front of us today. It really offers a comprehensive snapshot of a nation in constant dynamic motion. We're talking everything from high-stakes cricket defining a new era to complex geopolitical power plays, crucial trade developments, intense domestic debates, and even some critical social and infrastructure challenges. It's all here.
It is a truly diverse set of topics, and that reflects the multifaceted reality of India today, doesn't it? And we'll make sure to distill the key takeaways from all these sources, trying to give you a balanced and comprehensive perspective on these important events.
So what's the big picture that starts to emerge for you as we, begin to unravel all this material? Let's just dive right in.
The global stage, sports, and shifting trade dynamics.
Okay, kicking things off. We absolutely have to talk about cricket. There's a truly exciting development unfolding right now, a highly anticipated 5-test series between England and India. But what makes this series so captivating, beyond the usual rivalry,
Right.
is that it marks the first time in, 2 decades, without cricketing icons James Anderson and Virat Kohli on the pitch.
Yeah, that's huge.
This isn't just any series. It really feels like a moment of monumental transition for both teams.
It really does. And a striking aspect of this series, like you said, is that symbolic shift it represents. It undeniably marks a new era. Both teams stepping out from under the immense shadow of these colossal figures. I mean, they've defined modern cricket for so long.
Absolutely.
And the introduction of the Anderson-Tendulkar Trophy, honoring two absolute legends, Anderson for England, Tendulkar for India, that perfectly encapsulates this blend. It's about respecting and commemorating the past while firmly, embracing the future.
Nice touch.
It's a transition point, acknowledging a legacy while paving the way for new heroes to emerge and shape the next chapter.
That sense of a new era is definitely palpable. For England, under Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum, they're sticking resolutely to their aggressive baseball approach. For those maybe less familiar, baseball essentially means playing test cricket with this almost reckless abandon.
Yeah, fast scoring, taking risks.
Exactly. Actively pursuing results rather than settling for draws. But how does that incredibly high-octane, almost fearless style play out over a grueling 5-test series? Endurance, strategic patience, adapting to pitches, these are usually key, right? Does baseball have the stamina for such a long haul?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's a fascinating tactical gamble. It directly challenges those traditional test cricket norms, which often favored, slow, methodical play, attrition.
Right.
Joe Root remains England's batting linchpin, sort of the steadying force amidst the baseball frenzy. He recently passed an astonishing 13,000 test runs, just a colossal achievement. Speaks to his consistency, his class.
Incredible numbers.
For India, Jasprit Bumrah leads their bowling attack. Renowned globally, unique action, incredible precision. He's a formidable threat. However, his full participation in all 5 tests. That's uncertain due to workload management.
Always a concern for fast bowlers.
It is a critical concern in long series. So this naturally leads us to wonder, how will both teams manage their key players, especially their star bowlers and batsmen? It's such a long, physically demanding series. Injuries, fatigue, they can easily swing the momentum. Squad depth and rotation become incredibly important.
And India has fresh leadership, too.
Yeah.
25-year-old Shubman Gill steps into the captain's shoes. He's filling roles previously held by both Kohli and Rohit Sharma. That's immense pressure on a young player, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
To take on the captaincy, following such icons and be expected to perform consistently with the bat.
It certainly is. His primary focus, as you noted, will likely be on his batting. That's where he provides immense value. But captaincy brings this, unparalleled level of pressure. Requires sharp strategy, calm decisions on the field, inspiring the team.
A lot to juggle.
Throughout this series, several key battles will be compelling to watch. The intensity between Roots batting and Boomer's bowling, for instance, also the strategic chess match, Stokes's aggressive captaincy versus Gill's nascent leadership. That'll be fascinating.
Definitely one to watch.
And another incredibly compelling narrative, Rishabh Pant's remarkable comeback after that serious car accident, his return to wicket-keeping, his duel with England's Jamie Smith, that promises to be a highlight, shows incredible resilience.
Right. And beyond these established names, these tactical battles,
hmm
every major series is also a proving ground, isn't it, for the next generation? Who are some of the younger players, maybe for India and England, looking to make their mark here?
Absolutely. It's a huge stage for future talent. We're seeing exciting prospects like Yashasvi Jaiswal and Sai Sudharsan for India, both dynamic batsmen already shown flashes of brilliance.
Right.
And Ben Duckett for England, he fits perfectly into their Bazball philosophy. This series offers a significant platform for these young players to show what they can do, establish themselves internationally. And for India, there's that added historical weight, breaking the jinx, seeking their first Test series win in England since 2007.
No, that long.
Yeah. It's a significant psychological barrier. Overcoming it would be a huge statement. So this contest is pivotal, not just for the immediate results, but for both teams' evolving identities, shaping their long-term directions, and Test cricket could really usher in a new era.
Okay, moving from the pitch to the global marketplace, we've got headlines pointing to really robust growth in India's trade with G7 nations between, what was it, fiscal year 21 and 25.
That's right.
This really seems to position India as an increasingly central growing force in the global economy.
It does. And this is more than just, raw economic growth numbers. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it highlights India's increasing integration into the global economy, its growing importance as a trade partner. A recent report by Rubix, that's a data analytics firm, shows that all G7 countries—
US, UK, Germany, France, Italy, Japan, Canada?
Right. All except Canada, actually, have emerged as top 30 trade destinations for India, which indicates a very strong, broad-based engagement with the world's leading industrialized economies, shows India's economy deepening its ties across the developed world.
The numbers themselves are pretty impressive, too. Exports to G7 nations reached, $138 billion in FY25?
Correct. A 13% compound annual growth rate, CAGR, since FY21.
And imports from G7 countries totaled $110 billion, growing at 12% CAGR. So the overall trade volume, huge, $248 billion, with a significant trade surplus of $28 billion. And that surplus itself is growing at 16% CAGR. So India is consistently selling more to these nations than it's buying.
What are the long-term ramifications of that, maintaining such a surplus?
Well, that consistent trade surplus is a powerful economic indicator, very positive. The fact that India recorded surpluses with the US, UK, France, and Italy, it underscores its competitive advantage in those specific markets, shows it can produce goods in high demand globally.
Furthermore, the share of India's overall exports going to G7 nations actually increased, from 29% in FY20 to 31% in FY25, while the import share from G7 nations declined, from 18% to 15% over the same period.
So the balance is shifting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It indicates a clear strengthening of India's position in global trade. It's not just growing volume, but strategically shifting the balance within these crucial economic partnerships. It's a sign of a maturing, increasingly self-reliant economy, moving beyond just being a recipient of goods to a net exporter of high-value products.
What are the key sectors really driving this growth, and what does their prominence tell us about India's economic evolution? I see telecom transmission equipment, especially mobile phones, and pharmaceuticals are mentioned.
Yes, these sectors are indeed crucial and strategically important, signals a significant shift in manufacturing and innovation capabilities. Pharmaceuticals, for example, they're a global linchpin for India's economy and, frankly, for global public health.
How so?
The country provides over 50% of the world's vaccines, an incredible statistic. And 40% of all generic drugs used in the U.S., a quarter of all medicines consumed in the U.K. This isn't just trade. It's India playing a critical, indispensable role in the global supply chain for essential medicines. Demonstrates reliability, capacity on a massive scale.
Huge soft power implications there, too.
Definitely.
And the mobile phone export story. That's just incredible. A surge of 55% year-on-year, hitting $24 billion in FY25, making smartphones India's top exported item to many G7 nations. That's a huge leap in a super competitive market.
What do you think drove that? Government policies? private sector innovation. It truly is a huge leap, and it highlights India's growing prowess in electronics manufacturing. A primary driver has certainly been government initiatives like a production-linked incentive or PLI scheme.
Ah, the PLS scheme, right?
Yeah, it offers financial incentives to boost domestic manufacturing, attract foreign investment in sectors like electronics. That policy, combined with a burgeoning domestic market, skilled labor, it's made India an increasingly attractive base for global electronics giants.
Makes sense.
So this data, taken collectively, reflects a strategically deepened and diversified trade relationship with most G7 economies, moving beyond traditional goods to high-value essential products. It's an important indicator not just of economic strength, but of India's expanding influence and technological capabilities on the global stage. Shows a country moving up the value chain.
Geopolitical dynamics and regional tensions.
Okay, let's dive into some complex geopolitics now, specifically concerning Pakistan. And a rather stark, maybe even unusual move from the U.S. President, Donald Trump. He hosted Pakistan Army Chief General Asim Munir at the White House, but notably excluded Pakistan's sitting Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. That's highly unconventional, isn't it?
It really is. And what stands out is how starkly it illustrates Pakistan's entrenched military dominance within its own governance structure. This rare high-level engagement, as it was described, it occurred just weeks after a military skirmish between India and Pakistan, and amid heightened tensions with Iran, too.
Right, the timing.
The timing and the specific choice of guest. It undeniably underscores the U.S.'s recognition of the Pakistani military as the country's real power center, essentially bypassing the civilian government. It's an open acknowledgement of where the true authority lies for both internal and external affairs.
Let's unpack this a bit more. Historically, such direct high-level privileges like a White House visit were generally reserved for military rulers who'd actually seized power, through coups. General Munir holds no formal civil office. He's the army chief. Yet he was welcomed almost like a de facto head of state. What message does this send, not just internationally, but to people in Pakistan, about their own democratic institutions?
It sends a very strong signal. It indicates that despite the presence of a civilian government, the military effectively orchestrates governance and foreign policy from GHQ in Rawalpindi.
Right, from headquarters.
It's a clear demonstration that the civilian administration, while there, isn't the ultimate decision-maker on critical matters. And Trump's public remarks, highlighting consultations with India's PM Modi and General Munir, pointedly not PM Sharif, that further marginalized Pakistan's civilian leadership internationally. This suggests a system where elected officials have limited real power. It risks further eroding the legitimacy of civilian rule, potentially locking Pakistan into a cycle of instability and military-driven policy. It makes genuine democratic reforms much harder.
And the optics only got more interesting when Munir publicly endorsed Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize.
Right.
That happened despite Indian objections to Trump's claimed mediation role in the India-Pakistan ceasefire. It certainly exemplifies Pakistan's blurred civil-military lines, a military chief making such a political statement.
It absolutely portrays a government where democratic institutions, while they exist, serve more symbolic than functional roles. The power dynamics are unmistakably skewed towards the military. Reports even suggest the discussions between Trump and Munir went beyond security to economic development, even cryptocurrency.
Really?
Yeah, which further deepened the optics of legitimacy and comprehensive authority being conferred on Munir. This broad scope just reinforced the idea that Munir is the main person the U.S. talks to in Pakistan. This whole dynamic raises critical questions about stability in a region often on edge, with power concentrated in non-elected hands.
But there's also been strong criticism of this approach from the U.S. side. Former U.S. envoy Zalmay Khalilzad, for example, openly condemned the meeting. He cited the Pakistani military's historical duplicity with Washington sheltering bin Laden, aiding terror groups while taking U.S. aid.
And a long and complicated history there.
Indeed. Suggests a pattern many in the U.S. find problematic.
So this event, therefore, starkly illustrates that Pakistan's governance, its foreign policy, it's orchestrated primarily from military headquarters in Rawalpindi, not through elected civilian channels. The U.S.'s direct engagement with Munir reinforces this military state paradigm globally, lending credibility to the unelected military leadership. It's a very complex dynamic for the region. Raises concerns about stability, democratic health, but it also shows a pragmatic, maybe realpolitik approach from the U.S. engaging with who they see as holding the real power, even if it means navigating these tricky internal structures.
And connected to that, we have this rare, really significant public admission from Pakistan itself. Deputy Prime Minister Ishaq Dar confirmed that India targeted the Nurkan and Sherkot air bases during a conflict under Operation Sindoor on the night of May 6 to 7. What's the strategic significance of Pakistan admitting this, given their usual stance?
It's monumental, really. Dar revealed this in a Geo News interview, stated quite candidly these strikes came just as Pakistan was preparing to retaliate.
Wow.
His statement marks one of the first official, public acknowledgments from Islamabad of Indian cross-border airstrikes on key military installations. Usually less explicit at this level. The strategic significance. It lies in the rare transparency. By admitting the strikes, Pakistan signals the severity of the confrontation, perhaps justifies its own actions or diplomatic moves. It's a very telling disclosure about how close that confrontation came to full-blown conflict.
What's fascinating here, beyond admitting the strikes, are the behind-the-scenes de-escalation efforts Dar also disclosed. He reveals Saudi Prince Faisal bin Salman intervened directly, reportedly called him 20 to 25 times, offered to mediate.
Makes sense.
And the prince sought permission to relay Pakistan's willingness to de-escalate directly to India's External Affairs Minister, S. Jaishankar. You don't hear about that kind of direct, urgent regional mediation every day.
No, you don't. And this suggests Pakistan turned to Saudi Arabia not just, or maybe not even primarily, the U.S. to help contain the crisis. It highlights the multipolar nature of diplomacy in these volatile situations. Shows regional powers like Saudi Arabia playing an increasingly vital role in mediating disputes, especially in their spheres of influence.
A shifting landscape.
Reflects a changing geopolitical landscape, yeah. Multiple actors hold sway. Also suggests a degree of trust between Riyadh and Islamabad.
And further corroboration came from Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif. He noted that on May 10th, General Munir, the army chief, again informed him of Indian ballistic missile hits on Nurkan Air Base and other areas. So, again, the military is clearly central to crisis communications decision-making at the top.
Exactly right. Reinforces that earlier point about the military's pervasive influence. And then, adding another layer, U.S. President Trump publicly claimed he stopped the war, praising both General Munir and India's PM Modi. Revealed he spoke to Modi, credited both leaders for defusing a potential nuclear confrontation. Shows how high the stakes were seen internationally.
That statement from Trump really highlights the international community's deep concern about escalation between two nuclear states. The fear is palpable,
Absolutely.
evident in the rapid diplomatic interventions from multiple players. And Pakistan subsequently issued a NOTAM, a notice to airmen for Rahim Yar Khan Air Base, effective until July 4. Reflecting heightened military alertness despite the fragile peace.
That NOTAM, yeah, it underscores the lingering military tension. And this raises a crucial question. How stable can peace really be? When underlying power structures like the U.S. engaging Munir directly and these openly acknowledged strikes reveal such deep-seated tensions, such a constant state of readiness for conflict.
It feels very fragile.
Very fragile, as you said, underscored by ongoing military postures, the involvement of multiple international mediators, suggests a region constantly on the brink, requiring sustained vigilance.
India's domestic political and social debates.
All right, let's shift focus now to India's internal politics. Always vibrant, often contentious. RJD leader Tejashwi Yadav launched a pretty scathing critique of Prime Minister Narendra Modi during Modi's recent visits to Bihar. Accused him of failing to fulfill any promises across 200 speeches in the state. That's quite a charge.
It is. And what's particularly noteworthy is the core of Yadav's allegations. He claimed the PM consistently ignored pressing, bread and butter issues, unemployment, inflation hitting household, pervasive poverty, particularly in Bihar, which faces huge socioeconomic challenges.
Right.
Instead, Yadav asserted Modi prioritized divisive politics, stirring communal tensions, focusing on Hindu-Muslim narratives rather than delivering on concrete developmental commitments. It's a direct challenge to the government's narrative of development, of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas.
This definitely reflects growing discontent among opposition leaders, feeling that Modi's visits to states like Bihar are mainly political, ahead of elections, rather than about addressing substantive concerns. Yadav questioned the PM's track record on jobs, infrastructure, suggesting visits are more rhetoric than results. So what does this mean for Bihar? A state still struggling with poverty, lack of infrastructure, out-migration for jobs. Development is a huge issue there.
Well, according to Yadav, Modi's government has demonstrably failed to bring measurable change, especially in rural, underdeveloped areas. He made a powerful call for voters to hold the PM accountable for what he called unfulfilled promises. Emphasized that the administration's focus on communal issues served as a distraction from urgent developmental goals.
Hmm.
It highlights a fundamental difference in political approaches, one side emphasizing identity, the other stressing material progress. A classic opposition strategy. Highlight governance failures. Paint the government as divisive.
And by labeling the campaign 200 speeches, zero promises kept, Yadav clearly sought to underline that gap between promises and performance. It's very catchy, direct, memorable, designed to resonate.
Absolutely. This criticism signals an intensified political debate in Bihar, sets the tone for a very contentious electoral season. In this upcoming battle, that dichotomy development versus divisiveness is likely to be a central theme. It underscores deep ideological fault lines in Indian politics. Narratives often swing between identity and economic progress. The outcome in Bihar could be a bellwether.
Okay, and another major internal debate making headlines. The Karnataka cabinet, led by Chief Minister Siddaramaiah, approved a controversial decision, increasing the reservation for minority communities in state housing schemes from 10 to 15%. Sounds like a policy that would immediately spark strong reactions, given India's history with reservations.
It does. This measure applies to both urban and rural housing initiatives, intends to provide greater access to affordable housing for these communities. Law Minister H.K. Patil explained the move was driven by data showing significant homelessness among minority communities in Karnataka. So from the government side, it's presented as addressing a specific social challenge, providing equity, uplifting vulnerable groups.
But the BJP, as you'd expect, strongly opposed it. Labeled it unconstitutional, BJP IT cell chief Amit Malviya was quite vocal. Asserted reservation based solely on religion is illegal under the Constitution. Accused the Congress-led state government of exploiting religious quotas purely for votes. Called it dangerous social engineering.
What exactly is implied by dangerous social engineering in this context? What are the fears? Well, it raises that crucial question about the legal boundaries of affirmative action in India. The Constitution prohibits discrimination based on religion, and past Supreme Court rulings have been critical of religion-based quotas. When Malviya uses that term, he's essentially arguing that reservations based purely on religious identity could fragment society along religious lines.
Leading to resentment.
Potentially, yes. Resentment among other communities, disrupting social harmony. The argument is it prioritizes religious groups over constitutionally recognized categories like SCs, STs, OBCs, EWS, all of whom already have established reservations.
Right.
Union Minister Prahlad Joshi echoed this. Warned religion-based quotas have been struck down before, and this move would reduce benefits available to those other established categories. Vowed legal action, a major challenge ahead.
And this isn't an isolated move either, is it? This housing policy follows the Karnataka government recently passing a bill granting a 4% quota for Muslims in public contracts under 2 crore.
No, not isolated.
So clearly part of a broader strategy.
Absolutely. Taken together, these steps reflect the Congress government's broader push for community-targeted welfare policies, aiming to uplift specific groups. However, it's definitely prompted a fresh political battle over the constitutional limits, the social consequences of religion-based affirmative action in India. It's a complex intersection. Social need, electoral strategy, legal interpretation sets the stage for significant legislative and judicial scrutiny. The debate isn't just numbers. It's about the very principles of reservation and secularism in India.
Okay, let's talk about a headline that really sparks conversation. Seems designed to, frankly. Union Home Minister Amit Shah declared that speaking English will soon become a matter of shame in India.
Wow.
That's a remarkably strong statement from a senior official. What's the underlying message or strategy there?
Well, a striking aspect is his underlying emphasis on native languages as the true essence of Indian identity. Shah argued quite strongly that no foreign language, explicitly including English, can truly help Indians understand their own culture, history, religion, framed English as a direct relic of colonial slavery, foreign domination.
Strong language.
Very. His prediction was bold. The rise of a society where prioritizing local indigenous languages over English becomes the norm, a source of national pride, not embarrassment. The strategy seems clear. Foster cultural nationalism, encourage a return to linguistic roots as part of a broader national identity project, especially via the national education policy.
So what does this mean in the broader context? It's not just a random comment, part of a larger campaign to promote Hindi, other regional languages under the NEP, but it's clearly sparked immediate, significant backlash. particularly in non-Hindi-speaking states like Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, where linguistic identity is fiercely protected.
That's right. Tamil Nadu CM M.K. Stalin immediately accused the central government of using the NEP as a sort of thinly veiled vehicle to impose Hindi under the guise of reform, an encroachment on Tamil heritage. West Bengal voiced serious concerns too, echoing fears of linguistic domination, potential cultural erasure if Hindi or other dominant languages are prioritized over their own.
Right.
It highlights India's deep linguistic diversity. Language isn't just communication. It's core identity, cultural pride, even political autonomy. Any perceived imposition meets fierce resistance.
Shaw, for his part, insisted that while English has undeniable utility, global communication, commerce, higher tech, it cannot define Indian identity. Called on citizens to actively reclaim their linguistic heritage, stressed India should avoid further division based on language while promoting national unity.
That seems like a very tricky balance to strike. Pushing one language while advocating unity in a diverse nation. Indeed. Critics argue persuasively that such assertive statements could actually deepen linguistic divides, not foster inclusivity. The controversy reignited a long-standing, passionate national debate over language politics in India. It's that complex balancing act, promoting native languages, which hold culture, versus the need to remain globally connected, economically competitive, where English often plays a role. Shaw's remarks signal a decisive cultural pivot, potentially complex, far-reaching social and political implications, reshaping the conversation around being Indian in a globalized world.
Infrastructure, public services, and public safety challenges.
Okay, let's shift gears now. Something affecting everyday life. Public services, access. The Kerala High Court recently ruled that restrooms at fuel stations are meant solely for customers, not for unrestricted public use. Seems small, but has significant implications for private facilities versus public expectations.
It does. This interim directive came from a writ petition by the Petroleum Traders Welfare and Legal Service Society and individual dealers. They objected to authorities labeling their privately maintained washrooms as public toilets, allegedly with misleading posters, QR codes encouraging general use. This raises that important question. Where does the line blur between private facilities for a specific business purpose and public expectations for universal sanitation access? Who's responsible, private sector or government?
Right. Petrol station owners contended their toilets were mainly for emergency use by customers refueling, a convenience for their customers. Argued opening them to the general public, especially large tourist groups, apparently caused crowding, safety risks in sensitive fuel environments, operational disruptions.
Makes sense. Fuel stations have safety rules.
Exactly. They cited violations of Petroleum and Explosives Safety Organization, PSO norms, strict national safety regulations.
Allowing unrestricted public access, they argued, could compromise security protocols and essential services. The court acknowledged these legitimate concerns, ordered the state government and Thiruvananthapuram Municipal Corporation not to classify these washrooms as public amenities for non-customers. The matter set for further hearing July 17th, so it's ongoing.
So what does this mean for you, the listener, navigating public spaces in India? This legal intervention underscores that tension. Growing public sanitation expectations versus the limits of private infrastructure set up for commerce, not public utility.
Exactly. While fuel stations offer vital convenience, the judgment asserts the rights of private enterprises to control their facilities' usage, especially when public misperceptions or directives threaten safety, efficiency, logistics. It's a nuanced ruling, private property rights versus public welfare. It's definitely sparked broader debate about access to basic sanitation and where responsibility lies. Private entities, or government providing dedicated public infrastructure. Classic public need meets private property rights issue. Highlights challenges of urban planning.
Okay, from legal debates to glaring design flaws. The Ashba Railway overbridge in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, sparked public outrage due to a shockingly sharp 90-degree turn posing significant safety risks. Sounds like a major engineering blunder.
It really does. And what's truly ironic is the context. The bridge was meant to ease traffic congestion near Ashba, yet it took nearly 8 years to complete. Cost 10 crore, about $1.2 million USD.
8 years, wow.
And instead of resolving issues, it's infamous for its accident-prone curve, drawing nationwide criticism. It leads you to wonder, how does such a fundamental glaring flaw make it through years of planning, engineering, construction without being caught and fixed? Points to systemic failures.
So what's being done? Minister Rakesh Singh ordered the Public Works Department, PWD, to redesign the flawed structure, plan to soften that dangerous 90-degree angle, realign curves near residential areas. But here's the kicker. This redesign comes with substantial additional costs,
Of course.
fueling accusations of fiscal irresponsibility, poor planning, wasting taxpayer money,
Yeah.
paying twice for the same bridge.
Understandably, opposition leaders, local citizens voiced immense frustration, calling for accountability from PWD engineers, government officials involved initially. Critics liken the bridge to a painting that can be drawn and erased at will, a biting metaphor for bureaucratic negligence, waste.
Ouch.
It's become a visible symbol of governance failure, highlights common issues, projects over budget, behind schedule, often with design flaws.
And of course, political blame shifting intensifies. BJP criticizing Congress for past lapses,
Yeah.
while the public just demands transparency. How did this obvious flaw pass quality checks over years? What oversight was there?
Despite announced corrective measures and necessary steps, public sentiment remains sour. This Ashbaugh Bridge debacle deeply underscores systemic issues in infrastructure planning, execution, oversight in India. What was meant as civic improvement became a cautionary tale of governance failure, mismanagement, a public indictment of the system.
Let's pivot now to economic policy, quality control. India is moving to regulate imports of low-grade paper products, mainly from China, implementing a new quality control order, or QCO. Sounds strategic consumer protection and domestic industry support.
It absolutely is. This QCO, under the DPIIT, the Body Handling Industrial Policy, will mandate Bureau of Indian Standards, BIS, certification for writing, printing, packaging paper. BIS is the national standards body.
Right.
The dual aim, curb influx of substandard materials, protecting consumers,
Yeah.
and protect the domestic paper industry, which has been struggling. Timely move, too, amid China restricting rare earth magnet exports and concerns about cheap paper imports' economic impact.
So what does this mean for the Indian market, specifically the domestic paper industry? The numbers are stark. Between FY21 and FY25, paper imports nearly doubled, 1.08 million tons to 2.06 million tons.
Huge jump.
And a massive chunk, about $800 million of the $1.81 billion total, was Chinese products. That spike undermined smaller Indian mills. Only about 550 of 850, 900 mills still operational. Huge impact on jobs, capacity.
Officials argue the QCO is essential. Ensures imported paper meets quality standards, protects consumers, curbs unfair trade practices like dumping low-cost, low-quality goods, aims to align India's paper manufacturing with global standards, making domestic industry more competitive. The Indian Paper Manufacturers Association, IPMA, strongly supports it, cites consumer safety, market competitiveness, and India has already notified the WTO about the QCO, formal commitment under trade rules.
What's the timeline for compliance? Always key for businesses.
Large manufacturers get 6 months. Fairly standard. Smaller enterprises small, and micro get more time. 9 and 12 months, respectively.
Right.
Recognizes resource constraints.
Okay.
But this isn't isolated. Part of a larger government strategy. Bring over 1,500 products under quality norms by FY25. So far, 761 products, appliances, medical devices are regulated. Future additions could include wheelchairs, sanitary ware, a comprehensive drive, non-compliance, significant penalties, enforced by BIS to ensure consistent standards, domestic and imported. A systemic approach. Make in India needs to be quality in India.
Finally, a critical social issue where decisive action is being taken. A significant crackdown on online child sexual exploitation. The Telangana Cybersecurity Bureau arrested 15 men across multiple cities. Chilling, but important headline.
It is. The operation targeted individuals distributing, possessing child sexual abuse material. A horrific crime. What's particularly striking, and raises profound questions, is the demographic profile. Men aged 1950, mostly educated middle-income families.
Really?
Among them, an IIT graduate at a top software firm, and engineering graduates seeking work. Highlights such crimes aren't confined by education or class, can permeate anywhere.
The arrests were during a coordinated day-long operation. Cities like Hyderabad, Warangal, Karimnagar. Individuals identified as habitual offenders linked to 57 cyber tip-line complaints, a disturbing pattern.
They were found uploading, storing, sharing nude, sexually explicit videos of girls aged 6 to 14. Preliminary investigations suggest victims might be from outside India. Broadens the scope, indicates potential international networks. Authorities are working to trace origins, distribution channels. Complex forensic, international challenge.
So what does this mean for fighting this horrific crime more broadly? Seems this bureau is making a real impact, accelerating enforcement.
It seems so. Since their child protection unit formed 4 months ago, 294 FIRs filed, 110 people arrested. That's an exponential increase compared to the previous 2 years combined, only 37 FIRs, 34 arrests then. Rapid acceleration is remarkable, absolutely. The Bureau's director, Shikha Goel, emphasized using technology, vigilant patrolling of social media, and the dark web, a sophisticated, proactive cybercrime approach. She also stressed self-regulation, public awareness, warning even browsing such material is a serious crime under Indian law, underscores the severity. Investigations are ongoing to see if these suspects are part of a larger organized network. That would indicate an even more widespread threat. It's a crucial effort against a pervasive, deeply disturbing issue transcending borders and strata.
Wow, what a deep dive into India's current landscape today. From the changing guard in world cricket to the delicate dance of international diplomacy, and from those spirited internal debates to critical infrastructure and public safety concerns, it's clear India is navigating a really complex, dynamic period of rapid transformation.
We've truly seen how interconnected these issues are, haven't we? Whether it's trade reflecting global integration, military actions revealing internal power structures, or domestic policies sparking wide-ranging debates, each headline offers a crucial window into the nation's evolving identity and challenges. India, looking outward and inward simultaneously.
We really hope you've gained some real aha moments today. Feel better equipped to understand the intricate threads woven through these stories. You've now got, hopefully, a shortcut to being well-informed on some truly fascinating developments, understanding not just the facts, but their deeper significance.
Absolutely. Knowledge is most valuable when understood and applied. And as we've seen, there's always more to learn. Multiple perspectives always enrich understanding, especially with a country as diverse and complex as India.
So what does this all mean for you as you reflect on these headlines? Maybe consider this. How do these seemingly disparate events, from, a cricket match defining a new era to a policy on public restrooms, how do they collectively shape a nation's narrative, influencing both its domestic trajectory and its burgeoning role on the world stage?
It's definitely a question worth mulling over, particularly as India continues this journey of rapid change and increasing global prominence. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, keep that curiosity alive.